From quality life issues on Daniel Island to rooftops in downtown Charleston, I sit down exclusively with Charleston City Council District 1 candidate Marie Delcioppo for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and download my free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores. Marie Delcioppo, welcome back to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you so much, Quintin. Third time's a charm.
Exactly.
Happy to be here as always.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're counting down to the next election, which is coming up November 5th. And obviously, you're running to become the next councilwoman for Charleston City Council's District 1.
Yes.
What type of issues are keeping you up at night?
Well, on Daniel Island, Clements Ferry, Canehoy, residents are feeling as though there's been a decline in city services, struggling to get our garbage picked up, for streets to be swept, and then certainly as development has continued and there's been more growth, we would like to see more growth in police and fire to help with response times, increased enforcement. So trying to navigate those growing pains is the biggest thing. In the downtown portion of the district, Ansonboro and French Quarter, you have these gorgeous, amazing, very close-knit communities, and they're surrounded by commercial, and certainly they're managing development and growth in a little bit of a different way. They're not expanding out as far as landmass, but becoming denser and denser. So those neighborhood association presidents, myself being one of them,
right,
trying to work with our elected officials on maintaining that balance. Certainly we're not here to put anybody out of business, and we don't want to see no growth, but how can we best strike a balance so that quality of life is maintained and services are maintained and even amplified where they need to be.
And you talk obviously about quality of life, and as many people I've talked to for Quintin's Close-Up says, hey, let's stop all the studying, let's plan. If you were to be elected on city council, what would you do as far as planning to stop development, help out with growth, and help the quality of life on Daniel Island in downtown Charleston?
Sure. I think that we need to assess the city departments. Where do some need to be joined to work, that need to work closer together? What are some departments that need to be amplified? What are some that maybe need to be streamlined a little bit more? Certainly your most basic municipal services shouldn't be falling through the cracks. Trash needs to be picked up. That is basic. So if things like that aren't happening, then we need to look at who have we contracted with? What is that contract? Those types of things. And I think that needs to happen first. And no matter where you talk to people across the city, they all say that. Oh, we feel like we're neglected by the city. We are not seeing this, and this done, and that's heartbreaking to hear.
Here, what else are you hearing when it comes to Daniel Island, particularly with post-Hurricane Dorian? Where are we with the debris?
There's a few little things here and there, but most of it's just what people have continued to clean up in their yards. I think we were surprised by just how much debris there was, and I think the whole city, Charleston County, Berkeley County, Dorchester County, I think everybody was so surprised by the volume of debris generated from the storm. And I think that's very eye-opening. It's not if we'll ever have another major storm, but it's when. So I think this gave us an idea of what else we need to plan for and implement. On Daniel Island, we're extremely fortunate. Our power lines are buried, so we never lost power. I think that's a very important conversation that needs to happen in other areas, most notably the downtown portion of the district, is burying those cables. It's a huge safety issue that I think needs to come to the forefront.
And if you were to be elected on city council, would you produce a stormwater manual?
I think there needs to be some sort of plan when it comes to stormwater. I know a lot of people are very frustrated by the stormwater task force and other things that have happened. there needs to be a lot more listening than talking, and a very comprehensive strategy with actionable items created for how we are going to manage and mitigate flooding.
And let me get you back downtown to the Ansboro French Quarter area. Where would your comprehensive plan begin when it comes to hotels, hotels and rooftops?
Well, I think that the hotel task force has started to make some good strides in creating a more systematic approach to developments that, are approved. And I think that needs to continue. As far as rooftop, and I think also when we talk about hotels, we talk about rooftop bars.
Sure.
We need to tap into those neighborhoods that are directly affected, whether it be by traffic, by noise, all those different factors. And the folks of Ansboro and French Quarter are very conscientious. They're very reasonable. They want what's best, obviously, for their own backyard, but they also want what's best for the city. With rooftop bars, there's been concerns that the distance between a rooftop bar and residents has shrunk. So those neighbors are trying to, get more stringent ordinance around the distance from a residence to a rooftop bar, sound barriers, the type of activity, the type of music, things like that can happen on rooftop bars. And I think that's very important. And I think that's what needs to happen in a place like Charleston. It's very unique to a lot of cities in that you have people and commercial coexisting.
And let me go to abcnews4.com. They said this, quote, a hotel task force, that is considering, like you mentioned, an ordinance that would ban amplified sound and flashing lights for future rooftop restaurants. How many future rooftop restaurants are we talking in your area?
I believe it's about 17 that are proposed or coming forward. And so, I think it's a very important conversation to have. Ansboro and French Quarter have been very successful in the past with, helping developers understand the issues, and so them putting up the glass walls and, times of playing music and things like that, and have had a really good relationship doing that and a successful outcome doing that. So I'd like to see that continue. I want to work with them to continue to foster that so that they do maintain their quality of life. Those neighborhoods have been gorgeous and pristine since I was a little girl, and they're the heart of Charleston, and we want to keep it that way.
Keep it that way. As I ran into you last week, you were on your way to the Charleston City Council meeting for the big topic about the free board.
The free board workshop. Yep. Yes.
I can never get that right.
I know.
What do you know more about that now that you didn't know before?
Well, it was really interesting, some of the statistics that were presented as far as how many repeat claims are made, meaning people in a defined period of time have had more than one insurance claim made regarding flooding, and just how much of the city is in that floodplain. They put up a map, and the blue was all those areas that are, which is the vast majority of the city of Charleston, and not just on the peninsula, but Johns Island, James Island, out into all these other areas. So I think it's a very fascinating conversation to have, and I think it's a very important conversation to have. But again, I don't want to see us get bogged down in, but this number doesn't include this, but it includes this. We're painting a picture where this is illustrating a need and illustrating a point that needs to be made. And so again, let's not delay things from happening because we want to get so granular where maybe we don't need to be, when we understand the concept as a whole.
And when you talk about the repeat claims, how many are there in District 1?
They did not divide it out specifically by district.
Okay.
So that I can't answer.
Sure, let me take you maybe a mile from here to the Low Battery.
Uh-huh.
What do you hope that future will be?
Well, again, the same as for Ansonboro and French Quarter. When you walk down, kind of from Market Street south on East Bay, this is where all the famous pictures of Charleston are: the Pineapple Fountain, Rainbow Row, the Battery. So I think it's very important for us to maintain the integrity of these. Obviously, as now we're #1 small city, and we keep getting #1 this, #1 that, #1 the other. More people want to come and see with their own eyes what makes us #1. And so those folks as well. There needs to be a balance of commercial and tourism and their quality of living, and then obviously flooding throughout the whole area becomes an issue. So I think the Dutch Dialogues was very fascinating, and kind of their findings and recommendations, and I've while a lot, I think we can start to implement some of these things and start to maybe chip away at this, and start to get ourselves some relief in the short term, and then obviously doing things for the longer term to continue to abate the flooding issue.
What is your long-term recommendation for the Low Battery?
They talk about that seawall around the Low Battery, but then but in conjunction with that, they are making recommendations around the medical district, because we don't want to just continue to pump water out, which we need to do, but it's only got so much where to go. So we need to look at other portions. We can't just do one section, because that water is going to find somewhere else to go. And so it'll creep around to the other side, or, so it has to be a very comprehensive strategy that we take to abate the flooding.
And that strategy, how much more money do you need as far as pumping money into the Low Battery and medical district?
I do not know that exact number.
Okay.
But I do know that the longer we wait, the more expensive it gets. And that's what we've seen time and time again, is the longer we wait to do something, everything gets more expensive as time goes on. So we need to start doing things sooner rather than later, because then we will have a much more accurate picture of what something's going to cost and the scope of a project, as opposed to if we don't start it for 10 years.
Well, Marie Delcioppo, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome back to Quintin's House.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anytime.